Emily Webster Murphy, born 1973, is an American attorney and government official who is the administrator of the General Services Administration, GSA. 1. Prior to serving in the GSA, Murphy had been an attorney for the Republican National Committee and had worked for several congressional committees and executive departments in the field of acquisition policy. One of Murphy's roles as administrator of the General Services Administration is to initiate the process of transition during the changeover between presidential administrations. When Joe Biden was generally acknowledged on November 7, 2020 to have won the 2020 United States presidential election, Murphy initially refused to sign a letter allowing Biden's transition team to access federal agencies and transition funds. This came as President Donald Trump refused to acknowledge Biden's victory. 2. Murphy later acknowledged Biden as the apparent winner on November 23, 2020, allowing the presidential transition process to begin. 3. Murphy was born in 1973 and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. 4. She has a brother and a sister. 4. Her father James J. Jim Murphy Jr. was chairman of Murphy Company Mechanical Contractors and Engineers, and her mother, Mimi Murphy, née Webster, was an attorney. 5-6. Murphy attended Villa Duchesne and Oak Hill School, from which she graduated in 1991. She received a Bachelor of Arts from Smith College in 1995 and a Juris Doctor from the University of Virginia School of Law in 2001. 7-8-4. After graduating from Smith, Murphy moved to Washington, D.C., beginning her career at the Republican National Committee, RNC. She worked for the RNC as assistant to the Director of Administration from October 1995 to January 1997. She then worked as a staff member for Jim Talent while he served as chair of the House Committee on Small Business from January 1997 to July 1998, before leaving to pursue a law degree. 9. Murphy previously served as counsel at the United States House Committee on Armed Services, where she specialized in acquisition policy and reform. She has also held roles at the Small Business Administration and at GSA, where she served as the agency's chief acquisition officer. 10. Murphy served under 3 chairmen of the United States House Committee on Small Business. Her private sector experience includes 5 years in executive positions at a technology startup company engaged in federal contracting and 3 years as a government contracts attorney with 2 D.C. law firms. 11-12. After President Trump took office in January 2017, Murphy was appointed to the position of Senior Advisor to Acting General Services Administration Administrator Timothy Horn. 13-7. On September 2, 2017, Trump nominated Murphy to the post of GSA Administrator. The Senate confirmed Murphy's appointment by unanimous consent on December 5, 2017. 13. In March 2018, an Inspector General's report found that Murphy had a policy of permitting alcohol consumption on agency property. 14-15. In 2018, Murphy became involved in a dispute surrounding a decision to cancel plans to relocate the J. Edgar Hoover building out of Washington, D.C., instead planning to do a more expensive rebuild at the existing location. 16-17-18, House Democrats alleged that this decision was influenced by Trump's desire to prevent a rival hotel being built on Pennsylvania Avenue. 10. Murphy faced questions at a 2018 congressional hearing regarding the White House's involvement in this decision, where she claimed that Trump was not involved in the decision and instead the direction was received from the FBI. 10-17, a GSA Inspector General report published in August 2018 revealed Murphy's testimony left the misleading impression that she had no discussions with the president or senior White House officials in the decision-making process about the project. Murphy had failed to disclose her meetings with the president on 2 occasions regarding the project, and one with his chief of staff John Kelly. 10. The GSA administrator is the government official responsible for ascertaining the existence of an upcoming transition of the presidency, thus permitting the incoming president-elect and their staff access to federal agencies and transition funds. After November 7, 2020, when Joe Biden became generally acknowledged as president-elect following the 2020 election, Murphy did not issue a letter doing so, thus preventing Biden's transition team from federal support to facilitate an orderly transition of power. 19-2. By preventing the access to federal resources for the transition to proceed, she prevented the incoming administration from obtaining office space, performing background checks on prospective cabinet nominees, and accessing classified information. 2/19/20, Murphy's withholding of ascertainment also blocked Biden's transition team from accessing several $1 million in federal transition funds for salaries and other costs, establishing government email addresses, and working with the Office of Government Ethics on required financial disclosure and conflict of interest forms for incoming nominees. 2/19. Before the 2020 election, Murphy had reportedly spoken with David Barham, who was President George W. Bush's GSA administrator during the 2000 election, about the appropriate steps to take during a possible transition of power. 10. On November 10, 4 former Secretaries of Homeland Security, Tom Ridge, Michael Chertoff, Janet Napolitano, and Jay Johnson, called upon Murphy to initiate the transition. 21/22, on November 19, the chair of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform formally requested that Murphy brief Congress on her ongoing refusal to grant the Biden-Harris transition team access to critical services and facilities. 23/24, the next day, House Democrats sent Murphy a letter reading, "Your actions in blocking transition activities required under the law are having grave effects, including undermining the orderly transfer of power, impairing the incoming administration's ability to respond to the coronavirus pandemic, hampering its ability to address our nation's dire economic crisis, and endangering our national security." 25. The letter asked for a personal briefing on the situation by November 23, 2020. 25. On November 23, 2020, after the state of Michigan certified results, Murphy issued the letter of ascertainment, thus permitting the Biden transition team access to federal funds and resources for an orderly transition.